Wait a minute. You like wrestling?
Of course I like wrestling. That's why I hate it. Outlaws.
Wrestling is better than the things you like.
Outlaws.
You'll take those rattlesnake fangs and you'll stick them right in my ass.
What?
Middle-aged. Outlaws.
Today I'm middle-aged.
Quote, the outlaws no more. You see, we don't look at reality through any veil, nor do we see the truth through any veil. It is what it is. Things are as they are, and we are who we are. When we rest in reason. When we move with passion, and there's nothing that we feel more passionate about than inflicting pain on the Raven. And that was the greatest promo that was ever cut at a Starrcade by the crippler Chris Benoit. Welcome to episode 49 of the Middle-Aged Outlaws. Today we'll be talking about possibly, I think it's the biggest selling pay-per-view in WCW history, Adam. Starrcade 1997. Your choice.
Yeah.
How's it going? You all right?
I may be fucked up. Yeah. I'm going to try and, as we go, justify myself. But yeah. So much of this was about one story that I'd been hearing about. So maybe it's kind of not my fault, just to try and pass the buck.
Was it the Benoit promo?
No. The story was. We'll get there. It's in the Sting Hogan match. We'll get there.
Okay, they mention it a couple of times. So Tony Schiavone and Dusty and Mike Tenay, they mention it a couple of times throughout. So before we get into Starrcade 97, Starrcade always held in a December.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I think it was
that.
Like in the early days. I think they always say it was a great market. Oh Jesus, sorry, that was on my side. It was a great market for wrestling in sort of between Christmas and New Year.
Something for families to go to.
Yeah,
catching the telly, that sort of stuff.
And I think it used to do pretty big business, and that's in the old days where all the revenue kind of came from the gate rather than from the TV deals and things like that. And I've got memory of, WrestleMania was always undisputedly the biggest event that WWE would put on, and I think for a while Starrcade was considered the biggest event for WCW. Although I'm sure Eric Bischoff said that over time they kind of started viewing Halloween Havoc as their biggest.
Really?
Which it's surprising to me. But Starrcade was around before WrestleMania, I think. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I think so, yeah. Yeah, Starrcade, I want to say dating back to at least 81, 82, possibly.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah.
So before we get into this, this is a big pay-per-view on paper. We've got the culmination of, I think, an 18-month storyline, essentially, with what should have been a culmination of an 18-month storyline. So we'll get into all that. Before we do, though, Adam, let's get your thinking cap on. It's December 1997. You are going to be generous, just a cheeky little 15, 16-year-old.
I would have just turned 17.
So innocent. Just 17. I mean, these days, there's kids playing football for Man U and getting paid $100,000 a week at 17. We're just paying 10p for our chomps.
It's kind of crazy. I'm pretty sure from 17 there was one local pub that I was getting into without any questions. I basically had a full beard at 17, but but yeah, you see the people that are stars at that kind of age, I can't really get my head around that. I was I'm sure thoroughly enjoying life, but not maybe as much as a professional footballer that's broken into the team at 17.
You
It's
never
all
know.
different levels.
You never know.
Mm.
Albums released in December 1997. I could find one that might be of relevance. Brian, another MTV Unplugged album. We spoke about one last time. Jay-Z's. This was Brian Adams' MTV Unplugged.
Okay.
This got a lot of play in my house.
Nice.
Yeah. I have no other albums, unfortunately. Film premieres. Film premieres. Tomorrow Never Dies, from the old James Bond franchise, starring Pierce Brosnan at that time. And Spice World, the movie.
Oh my.
Have you seen it?
I've not. I've never actually seen it. No.
Can't say I have either, but maybe one to look out. Probably better than Starrcade 97.
Probably could have watched it twice as well at the time.
Scripted better. Yep. It was at this time that our boy Ronaldo, Brazilian Ronaldo, won the first of his 2 Ballon d'Ors.
Yeah, loved that guy. Amazing.
1997, where would he be at that time? Barcelona still?
Yeah, I think I'm trying to remember. Did he maybe move in 97 to Inter Milan? Might have been 98. No, I think maybe moved 97. Yeah,
possibly before the knee.
Yeah.
Some births. Adam, 1997. DK Metcalf of the Seattle Seahawks was born in December 97. He's a big lad.
Yep.
And I think you'll know who this is. Maud Apatow.
Apatow.
Of Jude fame.
Okay.
I think she's like the 12-year-old child that like swears and stuff in some of these.
Because the kids are films. In the films, aren't they? I kind of forget about that. Yeah.
So Knocked Up and things like that.
Oh, it's like the "Where do babies come from?" speech.
That's it. Yep.
Yeah.
Are we getting into that now?
No.
Okay.
We'll skip past that.
Save it for the group chat. Deaths, an unfortunate and I'd love to say untimely death, but I didn't take a note of what age he was. Shirley Crabtree, aka Big Daddy, UK wrestling legend. Unfortunately, a couple of weddings for you, Adam. Will Smith and Jada Pinkett Smith.
Okay,
that panned out well. Keep her name out your mouth. And Woody Allen got married to the adopted daughter of Mia Farrow.
Jesus Christ.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
In December 1997. And Ludwig Borga called it quits in the ring.
Gutted.
Now, obviously, December 97, we're coming right off the back of probably the most controversial booking decision, if that's what you want to call it, in wrestling history, but potentially in Montreal with WWF. We've got the D-Generation X In Your House pay-per-view across the way. And in ECW, they were on a pay-per-view called the Better Than Ever pay-per-view.
That doesn't sound like an ECW name.
It sounds less than extreme. It's like a kind of PG version of ECW. Anyway, MCW, mild championship wrestling, possibly. Could it be?
Yeah.
Anyway, let's get through this and get to the wrestling. Okay, Adam. Number 1 in the UK charts in December 1997. Bear in mind what I've said so far.
I know what you're getting at, and I remember there was a run of them. There was a run of Spice Girls Christmas number ones.
Mm-hmm.
So it's gonna be the Spice Girls.
Mm-hmm.
The problem I have...
Hold on. Before you guess, the name of this song is also the name of a tag team that Scott Taylor and Brian Christopher were in.
Too much.
Yes!
That helped a lot because I never would have got the song. The band wasn't that hard to get, but I wouldn't have got the song.
Fantastic. And in America, they were, surprisingly, we had moved on to the Spice Girls. In America, they were still in mourning over the death of a high-profile British person. And that was signalled by, what was it, number one in their charts?
Okay, so, what was it actually called? That Elton John number. Did
Nailed
it for Marilyn Monroe and then didn't give a fuck about her anymore, so redid it for Princess Diana. Oh, what was it called? Candle in the Wind.
How'd you get that?
Because you're singing.
Incredible.
Yeah, it was outstanding.
2 for 2. In the UK box office,
Men in Black.
for God's sake.
Oh, the Spice Girls movie.
Yes, well done. We'll forget that. We'll use the Men in Black Juger thing and forget you said it. And in America, it is not related to anything we've just said.
Face Off.
Amazing. No, but I love that that's what you guessed. Titanic in America.
All right, okay. Okay.
No idea when Titanic came out, have you?
No, I've
Well,
not
it says
even any
like
idea when
October.
Face Off came out.
I like that it could be just your default answer for things that you don't know the answer to, like at work. Does anyone know who's in this spreadsheet? Face Off! No.
Oh, buddy, is that not like
There's
what
something
used
wrong
to,
with Adam again.
it used to pop up at the bottom when you played one of those NHL hockey games and you got to do the fighting? I think that's what used to pop up at the bottom of the screen. So
Face
I probably
Off.
shouldn't use it. Yeah, I think the words used to be just like Face Off. So I shouldn't use that at work because I might end up getting in a scrap that I would lose.
Well, you've watched a lot of wrestling in your time, you never know. Might translate like in Limitless.
Yeah, you never know. I could try like locking in a camel clutch or something like that and see how
Oh.
that got on.
That is not where I thought you were going. Let's get on to this wrestling. Starrcade 97. It sounds, and if you knew nothing about this before going in, and both of us kind of didn't really know that much about it, we obviously know bits and pieces, particularly around the main event. But just seeing this cinematic video package that we get featuring Hogan and Sting, if you were sitting down to watch this, you'd be like, yes, this is going to be amazing.
Yep, absolutely. And it got me, and I got the enthusiasm, and I'm thinking, these are two of the biggest stars of all time, and they're going to be colliding here, and they've built it that, this is kind of, I don't know if it's pitched as being their first match, but they do put it across that way that finally they're actually going to have a match between the two, and they make it seem like such a big deal.
100%. I love this sort of, like I said, cinematic way that they do this. It presents Sting as this sort of almost mythical character, and yeah, it's amazing. And then they zoom right in on Sting, and I think it's like his eyeball, his iris is like the Starrcade logo, and all that's cool.
Yeah,
very unlike WCW actually.
Yeah,
their video packages have been piss poor, but this is good.
Yeah.
Okay, so Tony Schiavone, Rikishi, and Mike Tenay welcome us to. Sorry, it's Dusty Rhodes.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Did they ever tell us where Heyman is? They sort of reference something, I think, later on at a point, maybe in the battle between Bischoff and
I could tell Heenan.
Big Larry. Yeah, but where's Bobby Heenan?
I can tell you. So before this pay-per-view, so this pay-per-view is billed as WCW versus NWO.
Yep.
Kinda. And I'd like to talk about that because it's yanking my chain. But anyway, they had like an NWO Nitro before this, and Heenan, they didn't have an NWO commentator, and they came and they were going to kick Schiavone and Tenay and Heenan off the commentary booth, and Heenan says something like, "I'll take one for the team," and he stays, and he's like, "Oh, I'll be the NWO commentator," and then they are presenting, then come this pay-per-view, they're presenting it. It was supposed to be Tenay, Schiavone, Dusty and Heenan on commentary. Heenan said to Schiavone, like, I'm now supposed to be the NWO commentator, it doesn't really make sense that all these guys at WCW and NWO, so Bischoff told them to take the night off.
Wow. Okay.
It was missing for me. I wouldn't have bought Heenan as the WCW as the NWO commentator.
Nah. And I know
he hates Hulk Hogan. He hates Hulk Hogan.
He's generally plays the role of the heel announcer, but I don't think you would kind of need, I don't know, if you wanted a proper NWO commentator in there, you'd probably need Bischoff. The role.
Yeah. But he's on the card. But it lacked someone giving it from, because all you get is Schiavone going, yeah, give it to him. Yeah, give him another one.
And it's so.
I'm telling you, baby, this is all about destiny, baby. Destiny, 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 baby.
That wasn't bad, you know.
I think he was being paid by someone to say the word destiny. So yeah, I said Rikishi. It was Dusty Rhodes. He did look an awful lot like early 2000s Rikishi. But here we are. We're welcomed by Schiavone to the culmination of an 18-month feud. Do you want to talk about this WCW versus NWO half-arsed thing that they're doing just now?
Yeah, I suppose we can do. There's obviously, I don't know how far in we are here, December 97. Trying to remember when Hogan joined and aligned and made it.
Oh, they keep saying 18 months. It must be 18 months since like Hall turned. Scott Hall turned up on TV.
Right. So since then the NWO have been recruiting and growing in numbers, and basically I believe there were some discussions internally about having them have their own show. Having it perceived as two groups. You've got the sort of power dynamic between them and the traditional WCW guys, who mostly just seem to get beat up all the time. And you've got Sting as kind of the standalone guy that's never crossed over, but he's just a bit of a loner type character. He's not necessarily even here affiliated with WCW, just wants to stop the NWO and wants to stop Hogan and take the title. And they talk a little bit through the show and as we're going about the fact that there's a match on the card between Eric Bischoff, who is running the company but is aligned with NWO. I always found that a little bit doesn't quite make sense. I mean, if you're that company, you put a new figurehead in, you fire him, Anyway,
that's on JJ Dillon, so let's not be surprised.
Okay. He's fully affiliated with the NWO, and he is going to be having a match later on with Larry Zbyszko that will determine, from my understanding, whether Nitro is going to become an NWO show or remain a WCW show. Which again, I think they're pushing things a little bit too far in terms of the storyline there. And it feels to me like you've kind of gone away from this infiltrating group, which made so much sense and was so exciting at the start. And I totally understand why they couldn't continue legally indicating that they were from WWE and trying to take over. But in terms of storyline, it just feels a little bit all over the place by now for me.
Yep, that sums it up almost perfectly. Yep. My issue is that so on this show, you're essentially saying, I keep saying essentially, it really bothers me. You're saying that Larry Zbyszko gets beat by Eric Bischoff and Nitro is an NWO show, right? Right. Okay, and then Sting is facing Hogan for the title. That's NWO versus WCW. We've got Buff Bagwell versus Lex Luger on this card. That's WCW versus NWO.
Yeah.
Then we've got DDP versus Kurt Hennig. That is also WCW versus NWO. But we've also got Guerrero versus Malenko, which none of them are affiliated with NWO. We've got what else we got? We've got Goldberg versus Mongo McMichaels. Both of them are affiliated with WCW. And there's another one, which I can't remember, but there's another Saturn versus Benoit, or Raven versus Benoit, whatever one it's supposed to be. So, like, So the NWO win, and then are the NWO guys going to all fight each other on Nitro, or are they just going to like sneak their way through 2 hours?
Hire all the WCW guys as enhancement talent. Just bring them in for one-shot deals every week. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense because where can you possibly go with it if it goes that way? And Thunder's not a thing yet here, is there? They don't have a second show. No.
Nah. I think it would work for me better if it was all WCW versus NWO, and maybe they were totaling the score as they go along. You might have had the commentary team saying our jobs are in jeopardy here. What's going to happen if? But you never get anything like that. It's just all half booked, half baked, maybe. It's weird.
It feels like you would either go all or nothing. You would either have nothing but NWO, and I get your title match. You can have that anyway. That doesn't need to be underlined as what it is for the sake of a whole show. You could just have a normal card, or every match be NWO against WCW. And yeah, you can talk about maybe, NWO get all the title shots or have all the belts or whatever. That's your power dynamic within the show. It's that kind of thing. It's maybe them then dictating who they're willing to face and things like that. But the show just changing hands in terms of who the performers are on it. I can't imagine watching it back then. And I didn't watch much of this TV, maybe a little bit here and there, but I can't imagine thinking, oh, this makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I'm in on this.
Yep. Yeah, like the appeal of the NWO was that they're a kind of rebellious fringe group that were infiltrating. And it doesn't work when they're full of jobbers and Let's get into some of this.
Yes.
Action. First match on the card, WCW Cruiserweight Championship. Dean Malenko is challenging Eddie Guerrero for his Cruiserweight Championship. And Eddie comes out carrying the belt over his shoulder like an absolute beast. Much like Roman Reigns would start doing about 20 years ago. 20 years ago? 20 years forward. This to me had potential to be a really good match. What did you think of it?
I didn't love it. Like I struggled to get into it, and I know we've had a couple of similar ones before. I like both the performers. Huge Eddie Guerrero fan. He's had so many brilliant matches. Dean Malenko, you know what you're going to get. He's a good worker. He can do plenty of moves, big move set.
Technically.
Technically very, very impressive. And he always came across to me when he had a lot of matches in the cruiserweight division where he's maybe up against guys that are quite a bit smaller, and he could look dominant in that kind of role.
Yes.
And yeah, it just didn't. I don't know. It didn't click for me. It just didn't really do it for me. When I saw them come out, I thought this could be one of those really good. It gets you up and gets you ready for the show starting and off to a bit of a flyer, but it just didn't really do it for me.
Nah, me neither. I'm just checking to see. It only went 15 minutes actually, but it really felt like it dragged.
Yeah, it did.
It felt like it peaked and then came back in and peaked again and came back in. That didn't feel like there was any sort of continuity. Somebody was on top and then immediately somebody else would be on top. We're quickly going for the knee. Eventually, Eddie wins by frog splashing the knee, but he's never really worked it that much. I think Malenko was trying desperately to concuss Eddie Guerrero based on the power bombs he's given him. My God. Surprised he never broke the canvas. They were brutal.
Yeah. And they did. They were selling the damage quite a bit to Malenko's knee towards the end when he was trying to go for offensive moves. Eddie was going for quick ways of cutting him off just by going after the knee. So at least I think they were telling a bit of a story of a match. It just never. You're kind of used to the fast start and then maybe somebody getting on top and then the comeback and things like that. It did seem pretty back and forth, and I don't know.
Yeah, that wasn't there at all, was it?
Nah.
Malenko's not exactly a hold the crowd in his hand type of guy, though.
No, he's not the most charismatic. Bless him.
Something that I did enjoy about this, and I had to rewind it and put the subtitles on, is Dusty does say that they're going to beat off the NWO, which I enjoyed.
Yeah.
We're gonna beat them off.
Did any of the other announcers react to it at all? I'm trying to remember.
I can't remember.
I don't think they did.
Seems like the sort of thing that Schiavone would go, "What?" or something. I've never seen anybody frog splash a knee before. Normally, if you get the knees up, that's the counter. But I like that sort of silly, sort of weird behaviour, unorthodox attack.
There was a logic to it, because if you're selling the fact it's the knee you've been going after, do your finisher, but get the knee with it.
So Eddie retains, all very uneventful apart for these power bombs, and there's the wee spot where he puts Malenko's knee between the ring pole and the steps and drop kicks the steps. But vicious.
Yeah.
I love his theme music. It's a plus.
That'll do. It feels like you're reaching a little bit, but okay.
Moving on, we got our first introduction of the NWO music, and out comes Scott Hall. I've written here that the NWO are awful heels because everyone just loves them.
Yeah.
Which is kind of an issue.
Yeah. I was thinking, because as soon as we saw him, I thought, is he going to do his thing where he asked, his survey of the crowd, and I thought it maybe depends how they pitch it, because I do think, much as NWO are over massively, the crowd were there to see Sting win the world title. That's what it felt like. He's always just I don't know. There's something so cool about Scott Hall. He's
very very laid back here. I was a little bit concerned about his well-being. He seemed to be talking almost too slow. You know that whole thing where Triple H tells people to slow down, and once you've slow down again. I think he was maybe working on that basis. So we're supposed to have the Giant versus Nash on this pay-per-view, and Scott Hall has come out to tell the fans that what does he call him? The Muscular Marvel or something odd like that.
Something like
won't be there. He's not wrestling the Giant tonight. And if you've got a problem with that, you can meet him down there. And then somebody in the crowd shouts, "Down where? Down where, you say?" You know where. And that's all he says.
I was thinking when he was doing that, if this was somebody else, how flat the segment would have fallen. But I don't know, he somehow just gets away with it. However nonsensical it is, he just kind of gets away with it.
It's like the suffering succotash Roman Reigns line.
There was one thing I wasn't sure about on here. Well, it's a few things, but we're sort of told that their Scott Hall's wearing a tag team title that isn't the real tag team title, and he makes a big point of introducing himself as one half of the real tag team champions and Kevin Nash as the other half. Was that more covered on the Nitro in terms of what was going on?
Something to do with the Steiners. The Steiners, I think they maybe cheated their way to beating the Steiners or something like that.
Okay.
The stuff when Nash was actually supposed to be wrestling the Giant on this pay-per-view, but he had a heart issue.
Is that when that was? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Remember hearing about that, because I think he got a real proper fright, and his dad had died quite young from a heart attack as well.
That was the whole thing.
Yeah.
They end up going, I want to say, the next month, and that's that classic match where he drops Big Show on his head that we so enjoyed watching.
Yeah.
Anyway, Hall says Nash won't be here. You can meet him down there. He says, "Tell Frank and Goof to get out. Get a ref out here. Get Frank and Goof out here," and starts doing this kind of zombie walk, which is absolutely amazing. Big Show, Giant comes out, starts hoying Hall about the ring, sort of comedy fashion. Jackknife power bombs him, and that's our angle.
Yep.
I thought this was maybe taking Hall out of the, because he's supposed to be in Bischoff's corner later on against Bisco. I assumed this was taking him out of that.
Okay.
But no, it just appears there.
It's fine. Just need to
fine
sleep
now.
it off. Yeah.
To help him get out the ring, out comes Vincent and Scott Norton. They then head to the back and come straight back out as their music hits.
Yep.
But so we've got a 6-man tag team match. It's supposed to be Vincent, Scott Norton, and Conan of the NWO taking on the Steiners, and Ray lives in a trailer. Apparently Conan had a personal issue, so at this point in time we're looking at 3 versus 2, and then the Macho Man's NWO music hits. I think we see Elizabeth first, and Shivani bursts into excitement. And then we get Savage. I've got a little bit of backstage information about this match. Do you want to hear?
Go for it.
You might know. So it was apparently late notice that they found out that Conan couldn't wrestle. Savage wasn't supposed to be on the card, but they asked him last minute, and he says the only way he would be involved if he gets the pin. But he refused to go over Ray Traylor because he thought he was a jobber, so it had to be one of the Steiners that he pinned.
Brilliant.
Because Traylor and the Steiners were supposed to win, but then that happened, and
oh no,
that's classy.
Do you know what kind of struck me in this? I've always wondered when exactly it happened, because being a WWF guy as a kid, I think the Steiners came in and were there for a little while, but not that long, and I really liked them, found them very impressive.
In WWF?
Yeah. And then, got more into watching some of the WCW stuff. It was like, I don't know, late night on ITV or something like that, and then later on one of the Sky channels where you would see a bit of Nitro. And at some point, really quickly, Scott Steiner went from being the slimmer, more mobile one to absolutely ridiculous in terms of his physique. And when they started coming out, I was trying to work out, is he already? And he basically is. He's almost there in terms of getting to Big Papa Pump size. But yeah, I'd love to see pictures through the months, just to work out exactly when that happened.
A time lapse of him from mullet to blonde hair. It's believable to think that's a different person, eh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally.
It's crazy. What do you think of it? I mean, Scott, what is Randy Savage doing in the match with feckin' Virgil and Scott Norton?
Yeah, because it is totally B Squad, but with Randy Savage, it feels he feels out of place on that team. Yeah, I mean, I think I didn't have high hopes in terms of how good a match this was going to be. I enjoy seeing Savage every time I see him. You see him doing his bits like his double axe handle and stuff like that off the ropes. They were clearly, even at this point, they were playing up to Scott Steiner's power. That was a factor through the match. He was kind of the powerhouse in there. Vincent just taking a lot of punishment.
Yes, he
over
does.
and over again. You've got the dog-faced gremlin, Rick Steiner. He has his moment where he just wrecks the entire NWO team. Lifts Vincent on his shoulders. Scott DDTs Vincent from the top rope.
Yes. Ooh. That's rough, eh?
Yeah.
Not the finish, though.
No, it's not. That's broken up by Norton, that one. And you get Scott Steiner with a suplex on Savage. Scott has Savage in the corner, stand on the ropes, unleashing punches. But there comes Norton, sneaking up behind, lifts Scott onto his shoulders, drops him to the mat, and then we get the glory moment from the match. Savage drops the elbow from the top rope, which, the fans are well into when he does it.
Oh,
they absolutely love it.
Yeah. The best part of the match for me, with the exception of Virgil getting DDT'd off Rick's shoulders, which is ridiculous, is Savage coming out and going back up the aisle, and you've got up the aisle, you've got quite a bunch of WCW wrestlers who aren't booked on the show, but they're booked to be sitting and supposedly supporting WCW. You've got guys like Glacier, Mortis, the Harlem Heat are there, Rey Mysterio, and Savage is just like doing these whole like rabbit punches towards them. Like,
brilliant.
That's class.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a class act.
A difficult match to sit through. How long did that go for? And did it get 5 stars? Oh, it got half a star. And it went 12 minutes.
Yeah, felt like it.
So we now go to Mean Gene. And he is with our guy, JJ Dillon. They've been talking up how important this match is throughout so far in the commentary, that they don't trust an official to take charge of this. They don't want somebody playing sides, WCW or NWO. So JJ Dillon has decided the fairest way to make sure that the Sting versus Hogan match is going to be officiated in an independent way is to do a lottery and pick somebody at random.
Yeah. There was a few things going through my mind here. I mean, you're leaving yourself open to a hell of a lot of risk. You're doing it that way. And if you've got any that have, in the past maybe shown some favoritism, some pretty strong favoritism one way or another, just take theirs out. Just take their name out of the equation. Just, have it among the guys that you're pretty confident in.
Like, yeah, put Little Nate in. He's a nice guy. He's a straight shooter. Mm-hmm. I tell you, he's not a straight shooter, Nick Patrick. But of course, that's who it will be that's refereeing this match.
You say that, but I'm going to just look out for Nick Patrick actually doing anything wrong as the night progresses.
That's fair. I mean, doing anything wrong in a kayfabe sense. Yes. Okay, moving on. So Nick Patrick, that's it decided. He'll be the ref for Sting Hogan. Next up, a terrible, terrible day to have eyes. It's Goldberg versus Steve Mongo McMichaels. I have 0 notes apart from what a terrible day to have eyes. This is who. Like, so at this point in time, he's still Bill Goldberg. They're not talking about a streak or anything like that. Mm-hmm. This is pay-per-view debut. This had been a running thing where he stole Mongo's Super Bowl ring. Mm-hmm. It's the most personality Goldberg probably ever got to show, apart from shouting "You're next" and laughing. Oh. This is really, really bad.
It's one of the worst matches I've ever seen, and like I remember,
it's 6 minutes long.
We watched. There was a show we watched. I think it was a WCW show where there was like all this hardcore wrestling going on in the ring, and there's like split screen and all that. Yeah, it was absolutely awful. And this feels like some sort of singles match version of that without maybe all the weapons. It was just unwatchable.
It was.
Why? Like, this is a guy, Goldberg, and I think some would maybe argue he was kind of green the entire way through his WCW run. But
Bret Hart
let's make his longest match to date in there with a non-fucking wrestler. What? Where's the logic in any of that?
That's madness. I was thinking we've seen this before. It's Brad Armstrong? I was thinking it's Brad Armstrong that's coming out here. We've seen this, have we not? But no, it was Mongo. Oh, I really dislike him.
Yeah.
Anyway, should we just move on? Remember his match against Bulldog? Like, this was worse than that, and that was awful.
I think the only thing I would mention is McMichael tried to lift Goldberg for something called the Mongo Spike, but his back gives out. And then I couldn't believe there was something called the Mongo Spike. But then Goldberg does his jackknife power slam for the win. That's it. And my notes end with that was shit.
So it's a fair summation of things. Next up, no music. It's Raven. He has come out and he's grabbed the microphone and sat in the corner as he does, with his sort of pissed off looking face. And I love this, because he says when he signed his contract with WCW, he made them aware that he would not, what is the phrase he uses?
Conform? Does he say conform?
He would not conform to the rules.
Yeah.
I'm thinking that is exactly what you do when you sign a contract. That's what you agree to. Johnny Polo, what are you doing?
It's supposed to be a very intelligent man as well. You think he would have made a mistake like that?
Maybe he has like Sick Boy read over his contract or something for him.
Yeah.
Or Van Hammer.
Yeah.
So he says, I've decided not to wrestle tonight. In real life, he's apparently got a swollen pancreas or something like that. So fair enough. Instead, he is going to have Perry Saturn wrestle for him. And he's an intelligent looking bloke. I was kind of thinking when he was coming out, I was thinking if you merged current day Shawn Michaels with Dax Harwood, that is Perry Saturn.
Wow.
So Saturn's part of the flock at this point in time. He's going to be the one to take on Benoit. Benoit's had a running issue with Raven, and as part of that, the flock. Yeah. This is a Raven's Rules match. They don't tell you that again until about halfway through it, when people start attacking Benoit, and you're like, that'll be the end of the match. Remember, folks, this is a Raven's Rules match.
They're trying to sell the fact that apparently Benoit has been due a match with Raven for 4 weeks, in one way or another. These matches just keep not happening.
He's dodging them.
Yeah. I always quite liked Saturn in ring as a performer. There's something, he's got a look that catches your eye. He's definitely got an eye catching look. But like some of the moves he used to, like, I've got right at the start, Saturn with a cool looking suplex kind of throw thing.
Yep.
I liked him.
He does a good brain buster as well.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, I know he maybe didn't have certainly when they got to WWE, he didn't have the longest run there. And I think some issues maybe impacting that, but I quite liked him as a.
Are you referring to Moppy?
Yeah, that creative wouldn't have helped. I wouldn't have thought.
He got that as a punishment for something, didn't he? Did he beat up a development guy or something?
Yeah, I think that's right.
I quite like the presentation of Benoit here. This long hair, the leather waistcoat, and his absolutely awful attempt at a Raven-esque promo that we mentioned earlier. But when they get in the ring and they start going, intensity is the word we always use with the Benoit matches, and that was not lacking here. A lot of sore-looking stuff going on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it kind of looked like they were both just laying it in, and I know there was a kind of a lot of times just an understanding between two performers that, yeah, we're just going to make this look real, so be laying it in a bit.
And yeah, you get the impression Saturn might be quite up for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like I said, we get lots of flock member involvement in the match, interference, Kidman, Sick Boy, what's the other person I mentioned? Van Hammer.
Yeah.
They're all here. Raven himself doesn't get involved though at all. What was this? I've written here that why is there unity between the WCW stars, but they're also fighting each other? That's what we've obviously spoke about. At one point, like as a Benoit match, loads of big chops between the two of them. At one point, Saturn's got him on the ground, pretty much smack bang in the middle of the ring, and he just runs towards the corner, runs up the ropes, and hits a moonsault. It's a bit like a kid doing parkour or something like that. It's amazing.
Yeah,
really impressive.
Yeah, I like that. Yep.
Saturn does what most people tend to do against Benoit. He starts working the neck quite a lot.
Yeah.
And it's at this point in time they pan into Greg Valentine in the crowd, and I've got Greg Valentine sat there looking like someone's auntie.
I noticed that, and that's, I think, the perfect description. Like, I think I was thinking granny when I was looking, but no, auntie works because he always just kind of looked like that. Even in his his heyday, he seemed to look exactly like that.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Arn Anderson thing. Like he just always looked the same.
Yeah,
really weird. Benoit gets he goes for a baseball slide to Saturn on the outside. Saturn steps it to the side, and Benoit manages to slap a crossface on, but it's outside the ring. So obviously, the flock take their opportunity to beat up Benoit. However, Saturn's a bit silly and goes for a Asai moonsault and just hits all the flock.
Yeah.
Instead of Benoit, we get in the ring, huge flying headbutt, and it looks like it could be over, but the flock are back in. They attack. Raven hits his sweet ass DDT, the even flow DDT.
Yeah.
And we get the rings of Saturn, and it's over.
Yep.
The DDT's the best thing in that. Maybe that moonsault.
Yeah, and again, there was the Brainbuster by Saturn, which always does look pretty good.
It does.
And yeah, they're not hurting Benoit. It's obvious it's a numbers game, and if it wasn't, he would be coming out on top in these matches. And I suppose it just continues with him trying to get to Raven and probably being blocked off for a while.
It's genuinely one of the only matches on the card where I thought, I would be keen to see what happens next. I'm keen to see Benoit get his hands on Raven.
Yeah, and it's building and it's eventually going to come. And it is one of those where you're just watching and you want Benoit to kick Raven's ass, and that's the whole point of it, and that's the whole point of holding off on doing it, because it'll build up more and more and more. So yeah, I'd be keen to see it actually happen, a match between the two.
I hate to tell you, but we did actually see it happen when we were watching through 1998. But it's clearly not very memorable. I do think we got quite a lot of Benoit, DDP, Raven three-way dances.
Yeah, we did. Or singles between two of that three. Quite a lot. Yep.
Let me just check what the next match gets, because, boy, you'll never believe this, it gets half a star as well.
Okay.
Buff Bagwell versus Lex Luger. They don't give us much backstory. I don't think it's Buff. No. Buff's. I think they've maybe had 3 matches, or this is the third match, and Buff's beat him every time. But it's been from NWO fuckery, as you would expect. So I think they're playing off here that Luger's clearly the better, bigger wrestler, but Bagwell seems to be stealing the matches.
Yeah.
Right at the very start, you get a classic face move from Luger. He spits at Bagwell. Bagwell bumps for it as well, which I liked. And by I liked, I meant wanted to fast forward. I'm afraid I didn't take very many notes here. This is a long match.
I've got a few. I can walk through it if you want. It's not
17
great.
minutes they went. Imagine that.
They very quickly position Luger as physically dominant. He does a press slam on Buff. Buff kind of fakes to be leaving, but comes back down with Vincent. Fight each other on the outside. Luger still in control, but there's a Vincent distraction that sees Bagwell get into the match.
Every time distraction from Vincent in this match.
Every time, yeah, loads. Every time Bagwell does an offensive move, he then distracts the ref and Vincent attacks on the outside. It's an ongoing theme for quite a while. After being dominated for quite a while, Luger counters with a kick to the face and a clothesline. Bagwell locks in a sleeper for a while.
It does, a good 5 minutes this match, I think.
It felt, how long does this match go?
17?
Oh, Jesus.
Why did he do that?
Luger hits a suplex to break the sleeper. Back body drop and clothesline. Clotheslines by Luger. Atomic drops by Luger that I've got in my notes were absolutely nowhere near having any effect on anything. And it is a thing with atomic drops. They often don't look great, but these, I think, must have looked specifically bad. suplex by Luger, but Vincent is climbing the turnbuckle. Luger throws Vincent off the turnbuckle. Luger
Onto
throws
Buff.
Vincent into Buff, clotheslines Vincent to the outside. Refs telling Luger to get off Buff. Buff knocks Luger into the ref, who goes down. Luger gets Buff into the torture rack. I don't know why this has just come into my mind, but have you ever seen, there's like a GIF where there's a dad in the crowd of a WCW match jumping up and down with his kid in the torture rack on his back.
No.
It's amazing.
Amazing.
Yeah, so I don't know why that entered my mind, but hey ho. Savage comes down and breaks the torture rack, but Luger press slams Savage. Luger then with a torture rack on Savage. Scott Norton comes down, punches Luger with Rick Steiner's dog collar, I think.
Yep.
Norton puts Buff into the cover, wakes up the ref, and Bagwell. Oh, I've been a bit sassy in my notes. Buff Bagwell beats Lex Luger clean in the middle of the ring. And then Miss Elizabeth runs down to help Savage.
Awful.
Yeah,
I think Lex Luger's just one of those people that's only as good as the person that's in the ring with him.
Yeah. I think that we've definitely seen some stuff where I was a wee bit pleasantly surprised by him, but yeah, I think
remember he had
right.
a really good match with Steamboat. Was that like the '89 Great American Bash?
Yeah.
Brilliant.
And again, yeah, you're probably exactly right. It depends who he's in there with, what he's capable of.
Tatanka, a couple of classics, but maybe no. Maybe no. Okay. Shall we move on?
Yeah.
To another NWO versus WCW match. Very excited to see Kurt Hennig coming out in the old blue singlet type thing he used to wear.
Yeah.
Reminiscent of Mr. Perfect.
It was. Yeah.
He appears to be the US championship. He appears to be US champion. He's defending his title against Diamond Dallas Page. Does Diamond Dallas Page in kayfabe have horrendous ribs?
I don't know, because I don't know how much they actually play up to it, but he is wearing something on them. He's got sort of tape or something bandaging round that kind of area. So maybe.
I feel like he wore that a lot.
Yeah, I think you're right.
The jeans. Yeah. He looks a bit. God almighty, his name's went right in my head. Canadian, crazy as a fox. What's his name? Brian
Pillman. Brian Pillman.
Pillman.
Yeah.
I thought he looked a bit like Brian Pillman here. I think he must be fairly fresh in his career, but I think DDP here. I know he started late.
Yeah.
But he's obviously climbs the ranks pretty quickly.
Yeah, they're going with a wee bit. So they've got a little bit of storyline on the go where we hear DDP stole the belt from Hennig. Again, I assume DDP is in a babyface role here. But good old JJ Dillon stepped in, took it off him, got it back to Hennig, and told DDP he had to win it, not steal it. Inspirational stuff from JJ Dillon.
Now sit down, do your homework. I was looking forward to this match, but much like most of the things on this card, it was incredibly underwhelming.
Yeah.
And a little bit shit.
Yeah, I was more enjoying the occasional, like, almost like Mr. Perfect spots. Like when he takes a big punch and spins over the ropes and stuff like that. He did that in a moment, and it was that was the only real things I found interested in the match, to be honest.
There was a good bit where the crowd pans to Steve Austin as the real icon sign in December 1997. I quite like that. They refer to the Perfect Plex as the Hennig Plex.
Yeah.
And I had to be violently sick in the toilet.
Yeah, it's not good.
A lot of the time... a lot of the time... Perfect's trying to work these ribs things that DDP's wearing. He tries to rip it off, and he's going to work here. I've got something written here that I think Dusty starts speaking and has zero idea where his sentences are going. he was clearly on one during this match. Like, that's not a revelation for Dusty, but it really is at times. It's like that thing where he started speaking about Destiny, and they asked him something pretty straightforward about Sting and Hogan, and he was just off he went about Destiny. Anyway,
It's funny because he's sort of, he's considered to have been such a good promo, and I've seen some that are incredible. But yeah, he's not good as an announcer. It's just not his environment. It doesn't work. It just doesn't work.
Nah, it's almost like comedic relief.
Yeah,
where it's not really needed.
Mhm.
Should we jump? Can we jump straight to the finish of this?
Yeah,
Because I thought it was sucky. The Rock used to do the whole barrel right round the arms thing, almost like in a crucifix, but he'd come all the way back round and hit a DDT.
Yep.
It looked beautiful. DDP cannot do that, and instead just kind of wee and jumped around his body.
Yeah.
The diamond cutter,
Yeah.
it looked really shit. I wonder if it felt like it worked to them when they were doing it.
Yeah, I was thinking in terms of timeline, would The Rock have been doing things like this at this point? Maybe just started doing that kind of thing. I wonder if DDP's seen it on TV and thought, I've got to steal that. And then he's rewatched his and thought, I won't bother trying that again.
It's kind of like you see these videos on Instagram of people trying to do pole dancing, and like, this is what I think I'm doing, and then doing it, and the pole comes flying down and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, Diamond Dallas Page wins the title, hits Diamond Cutter. We're building Diamond Cutter at this point. This Kurt Hennig wasn't Kurt Hennig that we idolized.
It's a shame. He's done by this point, unfortunately.
I would question if he could even shoot a basketball with his back turned to the net.
Yeah, sad times.
It is. No Rick Rude at this point. He must still been in DX.
Did he not leave straight after the Screwjob? I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, he did. Because he was boys with Bret Hart. You're right.
Yeah, he's maybe already been featured and then gone. Gone from the spotlight, maybe.
Maybe he was with Perfect or with Hennig for a while.
Yeah, that might not be yet. Actually, that might be to come. I feel like we saw some of that, some of that pair up happening. So yeah, that's maybe still to come, because I think those two go way back in terms of before they made it to the major leagues, I think.
Right, nice. He was famously on Nitro and Raw on the same night, wasn't he?
Yeah. Only person ever, I think.
Yeah. Okay, so do you notice? Have they referred to Bret Hart yet? The commentary team.
Don't think so.
If they have, it's fleeting. Probably the biggest star in wrestling, maybe with the exception of the likes of Hogan. Not referred to yet. So we go to the next match. This is for control of WCW Nitro. It's the legend, Larry Zbyszko, taking on Eric Bischoff of the NWO. Our guest ref is Bret the Hitman Hart. And if anybody knows about being screwed by a ref, it's me. Okay, Bret. Okay, mate. Realistically, you were screwed by the owner of the company, not the referee. Although Earl did tell him that he swore on his kids that he wouldn't do it.
He did. Poor Earl, though. What a situation he ended up in. There's something.
Is it poor Earl, though? He didn't need to do that.
I think he did. He would have lost his job if he hadn't.
I mean, he didn't need to swear to Bret the night before.
Well, but I believe at that time he wasn't aware of any attempted shenanigans. I think it was just before they went out that he was made aware of that. So, what was I going to say? Oh, yeah, Bret Hart. Right, we're both big fans. Brilliant in-ring worker. Maybe greatest of all time. Definitely right up there.
Yep.
We, I think, have been of the same opinion that the criticism of his promos was unjustified. Based on what we saw in WWE, he was actually pretty good a lot of the time on the mic. But there's something here about him in everything, in the way he's acting and speaking to people and everything around it. I don't know. It's not the same. It's like it's not the same person. It's so weird for me. Like, I know we don't see him in a match here as such. He's about to be in a referee role, but even his remonstrations with people when he's speaking to people, it doesn't come across as authentic in the way it did in WWE. It's strange.
Do you know what's weird? And I think this is the case in 1987. If say, let's say the same thing had happened, and I don't know who Sting had been screwed the same way that Bret Hart had been screwed, and WWF brought him in, and he was going to referee. I don't know who was Austin versus Michaels.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think they'd have him come out in jeans and a plain T-shirt?
Nah.
Or do you think they would brand him with a a T-shirt or anything to make him look like this just generic massive guy?
Yeah, I wondered if there was any, like, Bret Hart has come across and he's still Bret Hart. Do you think there was any, like, risk of, say he'd come out wearing the leather jacket or something like that, just had a very Bret Hart look? Do you think they were in any way worried about anything legal?
Litigation, maybe. Yeah. Pink and black.
Mm-hmm. I can't remember if he ever had that in WCW.
I think he wore pink and black. I think he wore a leather jacket too. His music was god awful. Just generic rock music, much like a lot of the WCW guys.
Yeah.
Anyway, we've got Zbyszko. I don't know that much about Zbyszko's actual wrestling career, do you? I know he was in the ring with like say Bruno Sammartino and people like that.
He was definitely in the AWA, where a lot of talent went through, and I think he and Scott Hall go back to then. I think a very young Scott Hall had matches with him back then, and he was one of the guys that was brought in when I remember seeing this in a documentary. You know how every territory was pretty precious about their champion didn't get beat and things like that, and then you had the NWA trying to cooperatively agree who the champion would be and do touring of areas and things like that.
Yep.
I think when the AWA, I think maybe everyone had their own championships at this point, but they wanted to do a feud with Memphis. And it was Jerry Lawler and Kerry Von Erich as the champions, and it was going to be a unified champion after that. So loads of political debate and discussion. Yeah. So I think Lawler won, and then basically refused to fight in that territory again, and just went back to Memphis. I think saying they hadn't paid him or something like that. That they brought in Larry Zbyszko to become their new champion, and kind of built around him for a while. And he was a bit more. I think solid in terms of he stuck around and did everything that was asked of him and stuff like that. So he was definitely there for quite a while, and you do things like Living Legend, like who is he? Which doesn't help when you're trying to build that as a moniker. But when I first started watching, I knew the name, but it's only through some of these old documentary type things that I've sort of learned a little bit about his career.
Interesting. I really don't know much about him at all, and I don't. It's not like you don't say WCW and think of like even 80s and whatever. You think Funk and Flair and Steamboat and Sting, Vader. I
mean, I mostly think about him at an announce desk in WCW. That's kind of how I would associate him.
So anyway, he's representing WCW here. Bischoff. I really don't like seeing Bischoff with no top on. It's horrible. He's doing the whole like taekwondo gimmick. He's talking on Nitro how his legs and arms are deadly weapons and all this nonsense. He's got Scott Hall backing him up.
There was one moment quite early in this that made me laugh. And it was just Scott Hall and being a bit of a dick, I think. Yeah,
Green kick.
So Bischoff has been trying to hit and run the entire time. He's been in and out of the ring, just trying to land one punch and then run out. And he goes to talk strategy with Scott Hall, who tells him to go full Karate Kid and does the sort of pose from the kick at the end of the film, which it got me. It just made me laugh.
It was funny. I like that as well. The kind of story of this match is that Bret Hart is kind of favouring Bischoff throughout the match. What he's really doing is just refereeing it straight down the middle, and not letting Zbyszko punch him after 5 in the corner, or making him let go submissions when he reaches the ropes, these sort of things. But the commentary team are outraged and they're saying he is. Dusty's referring to him as a tweener all the time.
Yeah.
He's not a tweener. Just because he's not like given his allegiance to the NWO or WCW. But they're playing it like Bret's going to go with the NWO. And I don't know how long this goes, but jumping, was it go 11 minutes? Jumping towards the end, because once Zbyszko gets his hands on him, he just starts throwing him around the ring and beating him up, basically, doesn't he? But at one point, Bret is pulling Zbyszko back from the corner. Hall jumps up and puts allegedly a steel plate under Bischoff's. What has he even got on his feet? They look like clogs.
Yeah. I don't know what.
I take it these are to be competitive taekwondo shoes or something.
Possibly.
He puts a steel plate under his foot, and then Bischoff goes to hit Zbyszko with a high kick, and it goes flying away into the crowd before it even connects, which is brilliant.
Yeah, I know you messaged me about this. Do you think it was supposed to connect and then fall out or something like that? Do you think there was supposed to be a bit more there?
Yeah, I suspect it wasn't supposed to go flying out his foot before he even connected.
As I was watching Scott Hall put it in there, I can't think what else could possibly have happened to it. It was always going to go flying.
Yeah. And Bret kind of just watches it like, shit. What have I done? I should have taken that 10-year contract and made sure that Vince just gave me it.
I'll do it on half the pay. Just bring me back. I'll apologise to Sean and everything.
So this is where this all breaks. It's not been bad. It's a spectacle. It's not a wrestling match. It's fine. It is what it is. But this is where this breaks down, because I guess he was supposed to KO him and then Bret was supposed to find it or something. Doesn't work out that way. And Bret just turns around and punches Bischoff.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, okay. What? No. The whole thing is that Bret's the guest referee because he got screwed by a referee. Now he's the screwer. That's Bret Hart. He wouldn't do that.
I don't know why. This was my favourite bit of the whole Bret interaction, was when he puts Scott Hall in the sharpshooter just after, because I was thinking, oh yes, give me some Bret versus Scott Hall
Razor
matches.
Bret.
Bring it. I'm there for that. So, yeah.
I don't even. How did this match finish? I don't even know how it finished.
Bret announces Zbyszko winner by DQ, which means Nitro will still be a WCW show.
Imagine a match for Nitro and it's a DQ finish.
We sort of go back to, I think we both have somewhere or another read or heard the words from Vince McMahon. WCW will not know how to use Bret Hart. And if you're Bret and you've just done your big debut is as a special guest referee in a match between Larry Zbyszko and Eric Bischoff. I mean, this is arguably the best wrestler in the world. By this point, certainly one of the biggest names in wrestling. And that's how they're using him on his pay-per-view debut for the company. It just seems such a waste.
Yeah. I was doing the whole, there's not much you have to change actually about this to make it relatively okay. Don't have him guest referee this match. Don't even debut him on TV. Have him come out after the the fast count in the main event and say, no, I know what it's like to be screwed by a referee. That's not happening here. Restart the match. I'll referee the match. Like that. Make that his debut match in the pop.
Because in the end, I suppose we'll get to it, but they try to justify, well, he's a licensed referee for the night, and you're like, oh, okay.
I bet it's today that says that. It sounds like a today thing.
I think it was.
So let's get in it. We get no build up. We've had 2 hours 15 minutes of build up, but no package, which would have been nice because they could have done a really good package of the whole Sting in the rafters. Sting beforehand with the blonde hair. Look what the NWO's driven him to. He's not even got on the tanning bed. But anyway, here we go. We get Michael Buffer sounding like, what are the drugs that they take in the Wolf of Wall Street? You know, the ones that make them go really, really slow.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and Leo's like out the car trying to climb across. I can't remember what they're called. The likes of Shawn Michaels and them used to talk about taking them. Anyway, Michael Buffer sounds like he cannot be arsed at all. I've never really heard them like this before. Champion out first?
Yep.
Nah.
Controversial.
I get it because they want to make the Sting entrance huge, which is ironic given what they do to him during the match. So Hogan's out first. This man is the leader of the NWO. I think he's on his own. I don't think Bischoff's with him, is he?
No, he comes out on his own, I'm sure. Yeah.
A really cool Sting entrance.
Yep.
To their credit, I like the Sting entrance. I was wondering, is he coming from the skies? Will he fly in a helicopter and take the roof off?
the kids' voices caught me a wee bit off guard. I was like, oh, that's a bit creepy. What is that?
That's quite cool. Yep, this sold Sting to me as like Stone Cold Killer sort of thing.
The crow gimmick was cool. Like the whole, and I think it's kind of, was it not Scott Hall that was given quite a lot of the credit for helping create that and coming up with the basic idea? It is just cool and it suits him and it works, and the way that they've played his character with it works. He's a loner. He's, coming from the darkness. He's got vengeance on his mind. All these things. It's just a pretty cool gimmick.
Indeed, I 100% agree. But you know what does not make sense and does not work? Having Hogan dominate him for about 20 minutes.
Yeah. And he's berating and belittling him a lot as well. Like verbally, you can hear some of it. He keeps calling him hero in a really derogatory way. Just like, come on, hero. Awesome.
Like, this would be one of those times. Well, there's a match, when Goldberg completely stuns Lesnar. Was that one of the Survivor Series we watched?
Yeah.
Like, that would work here. Have Sting do a couple of splashes in the corner, whatever his backwards DDT thing's called, and pin him 1, 2, 3, boof.
So you're
saying, dead.
You're saying you're gonna pitch Hogan being squashed. That doesn't work for me, brother.
No, yeah, exactly. Indeed. It's like, for me, that would work in it. Like, I don't know, you get Hogan wanting revenge, and you can go somewhere with that.
And an established star, you don't kill him by doing that. We've seen it.
Of course not. No.
It's
no Hogan.
There's Sting. They've told you half the story as it is. Sting hasn't been in the ring for 1.5 years. There's no recent scouting for Hogan to do in terms of prep. What's he going to expect in the match and things like that? Probably wouldn't be expecting a ridiculously fast, aggressive start and boom, that's it. So yeah, you could have easily told the story that way.
Instead, like I said, we get Hogan completely dominating Sting for pretty much 99% of this match. I actually didn't take a note of the finish. So maybe you have got the finish and the sort of botched finish.
Got a bit. So, right, okay. I'll pick it up from they're fighting on the outside. I seem furious that Hogan hits Sting in the head with his own bat. To me, that's bang out of order. Sting reverses Hogan into the guardrail, tries a stinger splash. Hogan moves. Sting hits the rail. Hogan lifts Sting and crotches him on the rail. Sting down, Hogan posing, leg drop by Hogan. And here we go. The ref counts. It's just a 3 count. It's 1,
Nice
2,
clean win
3.
for Terry.
And I'm thinking, wow, that was easy, or I would have been if I didn't already know the situation here from this match. But yeah, I suppose we could either go to the end and then talk back. That maybe makes more sense.
Okay.
The bell doesn't ring. Bret Hart is out stopping the timekeeper physically, holding him, stopping him from ringing the bell.
Classic face move.
Poor Nick Patrick is saying, ring the bell, but Bret's saying, this will not happen again. Bret is accusing Nick Patrick of a fast count. I didn't see a fast count, but Bret just punches poor Nick Patrick. He's done. Bret throws Hogan back in the ring, restarts the match with Bret as ref. Sting very quickly, stinger splash into the corner. Bagwell and Norton are down. Sting takes them out. Another stinger splash in the corner. And then Sting puts on the Scorpion Deathlock and points at Bret, who calls it when Hogan quits. And I've got to think cahoots here between Sting and Bret for this whole thing. It's not it's not a good look. Hogan quits. WCW talent are all out celebrating with the new champion. I think the crowd popped pretty well for the win. But my notes go to then the words, what a fucking mess.
It's a shame because I agree. The crowd from when Bret comes out, like the crowd are electric.
Mm-hmm.
But this is what I think the match should have been. Is exactly what that was after the restart.
Yeah.
Imagine that the crowd would be going absolutely bananas.
Mm-hmm.
It just make Bret look like an absolute goof on his pay-per-view debut because there's no justification for what he's just done. Also, he's reffing the match and Sting wins the match using his finishing move, almost taunting him.
Yeah.
And Hogan doesn't even tap out.
Yeah.
Like it's not like it's a move, like Rings of Saturn where both arms he couldn't tap.
Yeah, his hands are there, right, basically on the mat. So yeah. So there's quite a lot of issues with this. Obviously, like we'll get into who's at bottom, what happened where. If you're doing this type of finish, the fast count has to be very obviously very fast.
Yep.
And it didn't come across as fast at all, really. Bret then going so aggressively against that makes him look like a heel. The ref has, from what you can see watching it, called that down the middle, and Bret saying, "No, you can't do that. That was you've cheated," and then punching
like
the ref
like an actual madman. He's just seeing things.
It's almost like he's having like PTSD from what just happened to him in WWF.
Imagine that was the gimmick they gave him. That'd be amazing.
That might have actually worked a lot better.
No, this is not it. Just interrupting loads of matches on Nitro. No, not again.
That would be brilliant. So I suppose that one of the reasons I picked this show is because I think it had just got to 25 years since it all happened.
Okay. Yeah.
And there was a lot of podcast talk about it in terms of what went wrong, what happened. Bischoff, we sort of know is buddy with Hogan, and we'll never throw him under the bus publicly. But they actually had on ad-free shows, they had Nick Patrick and Eric Bischoff talking about it and recorded it. I've not listened to it, unfortunately, because I'm not willing to pay for ad-free shows. But I believe Nick Patrick has always maintained he was told to count normal. Now, in the build-up, by the sounds of it, he was told, yeah, fast count, fast count, fast count. And then from some stuff I've seen and heard, Hogan and Bischoff got a bit nervous. They didn't think that Sting was in a very good place physically. They weren't as sure about putting the title on him, but they do it anyway. And it's as if they wanted a get out for Hogan. Like at the last minute, they wanted to create a situation where it doesn't look like it kind of looks like he was wronged and gives him a very viable reason for the defeat and to get back into the picture. And yeah, I think from the snippets I've heard, Nick Patrick is very straightforward in saying, I was told close to the match, it's going to be a normal count now. Do a normal count. But it was apparently, from what I remember hearing, it was Hogan that told him that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the same thing as I've read researching for this, which is 100% believable.
Yeah.
But I don't understand the sort of crazy thinking behind that. Like, so they do a normal 3 count. Did they think that they might just abandon the plan?
Yeah, that's where it doesn't make sense, because surely if you're Bischoff and you're Hogan, who obviously had his fair bit of power, and you're no longer sure about Sting, the end result is still putting the belt on him. But it's just making a bit of an arse of the way you get there. So I don't get it. It doesn't make sense to me.
Nah. I wonder if he's concerned about Hart as well, because obviously he's left. He was supposed to job to Bret before he left WWF.
Yeah, true.
How many years ago would that be, though? Was that like, remember we did 94 King of the Ring, or was it 93, 94? And in the SummerSlam, it was supposed to be Bret.
Was it 95 he landed in WCW, Hogan?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So odd. WCW is just such a mess. If they ever did a behind the scenes, well, we talk about Young Rock quite a lot on this show. Like, if they ever did like a proper Netflix, HBO, top notch backstage WCW show, it'd be fucking brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the drama would be amazing.
You'd think there'd be a lot of money in that, and the likes of Bischoff can't be thinking he's going to get another job at WWE. He probably still does bits and pieces of work for them, but at the end of the day, this isn't happening in WWE's company. This is happening in the other, so they're not going to mind, I wouldn't have thought. You would have thought they would have looked at doing something like this.
Because all the stories you hear, like Nash obviously tells a lot of stories on his podcast now, just the beggars belief some of the stuff that seems to have went on. Completely.
Do you think there's like a protecting reputation from Bischoff's point of view? He doesn't want to be tarred with some of what actually went on?
Certainly seems that type of character. Fuck that man. Something I did like was La Parka in the ring at the end with all the WCW guys, and he's just wearing normal clothes and his silly Halloween costume mask.
Brilliant. Gotta love La Parka.
I liked Hacksaw in full tuxedo, in the back, greeting Bret as if he'd not seen him for about 10 years, like he'd just seen him.
Amazing.
There's a lot of people in that ring at the end.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Would have been a shame if it had...
Wow.
If it had, went off air when Bret went for the bell. Sorry, go on.
So, not a classic show. Well, just out of curiosity, if you've got the information there, what was the highest star match on the card?
What do you think would have been the highest star match?
God.
Wait, Goldberg versus Mongo got a negative star.
Okay, let me have a think. So, I mean, I wasn't impressed by Guerrero Malenko, but maybe you saw something in that. I'm struggling to see. Yeah, I'll go that. I'll go Guerrero Malenko.
Yeah, you're right. 2 3/4.
Okay.
The B team versus Steiners and Ray Lives in a Trailer got half a star. Same with Bagwell, Luger. DDP, Kurt Hennig got 2. That was it. Shocker.
Not
really
a classic show.
I feel like wrestling generally just sort of thrives on building up these amazing storylines and just completely shitting out the end. It's kind of like Stephen King does with his novels. These brilliant ideas, and then the endings are just always
just can't
shit.
do an ending.
Yeah.
Maybe Stephen King needed a Patterson.
Maybe. Did you see the episode of Young Rock that had like a little young Pat part in it?
I did. Yeah,
quite like that.
I'm so much more impressed by that show than I expected to be. I really enjoy watching it. It's very good.
Aye, me too. I do question if High Chief Peter Maivia was as accepting as he appeared to be on that show, but I really liked that little bit. It was quite unexpected. I would take a full Pat Patterson series. I like the whole thing about him coming up with the Rumble and saying that everybody's starting in the Battle Royal. There's more drama with.
Yeah,
I'm sure it's not like. I'm sure it's heavily scripted and all that sort of stuff. But, anyway, do you want to know where we're going?
Yeah, go for it.
I'm just looking to see. I'm going to count how many people are on the card that I've picked that were on this card. So Ray Traylor, Kurt Hennig, I think. Yes. Hogan, Savage. I think that might be it. I think that's it.
Okay.
WWF SummerSlam 1990.
Excellent.
I'll talk you through the card.
Yes, please.
Commentary by Vince McMahon and Roddy Piper. God damn it. If I'd known that, I might not have picked that. Do you know, Schiavone was doing, I think, SummerSlam 89, possibly?
Yeah,
I was watching some older stuff.
Did he leave was it just after that? Might have been his last show. Because I think he found out that basically Vince didn't see him as the main commentator when they were deciding who was going to be on it was maybe into the Rumble. I think he maybe left before the Rumble after finding out that Vince just didn't see him as their main guy.
The anchor guy.
Yeah.
So this SummerSlam 1990 has got that classic orange videotape front cover, and it had Hogan, Earthquake with Dino Bravo on one side and Warrior and Rude on the other side. So here's the card. The Rockers versus Power and Glory. Mr. Perfect versus the Texas Tornado.
Okay. Yep.
I thought it was versus the Big Boss Man, so I've got confused. Tito Santana versus the Warlord with Slick. A 2 out of 3 falls match for the WWF World Tag Team Title. Demolition versus the Hart Foundation.
Oh, I remember that. Yep.
Lots of messing about with people under the ring and whatnot.
Yep.
That's pretty much part of the reason why I picked this. Jake Roberts versus Bad News Brown, special referee, the Big Boss Man.
Okay.
Jim Duggan and Nikolai Volkov versus the Orient Express. Dusty Rhodes versus Randy Savage.
Oh, nice.
Earthquake versus Hogan. And the Ultimate Warrior versus Rick Rude in a steel cage match for the World Heavyweight title.
Amazing. So is this Hogan just recently come back after losing the title then?
Yeah, so WrestleMania, we're just off the back of WrestleMania 6 when it was Hogan Warrior, yep.
I think he disappeared for a couple of months and then he came back straight into Thing with Earthquake. I'm looking forward to that. This is one of those, I had it on VHS. I will have watched it a lot in my youth. I don't think I've watched it for a very long time, so this should be good.
And I want to say, Warrior and Roode had a couple of great matches, so that was why I watched SummerSlam 89, because they had a really good match for the Intercontinental title the year before.
Mm-hmm. I think he got some of Warrior's best matches out of him.
Yeah, I think Roode is one of those guys that I really enjoyed watching as a kid. I thought he was really, really good, and I think I maybe forgot how good he was. I'm looking forward to going back and watching this.
I think he's one of those guys that maybe appreciate it more now. And I think back then, because he was so good at being a heel, I just thought he was a complete dick, and he'd do the whole, criticizing the women in the town and stuff like that and all that kind of thing in his promos. And so arrogant and full of himself and all that. But looking back now, I just think it was brilliant. Like the presentation, everything about it was brilliantly done.
Yep, and they had good tights.
Yeah,
he always had good tights.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing Dusty and Savage.
Yep.
And that tag team match sounds class.
Mm-hmm. It's going to be fun.
It says it's Crush and Smash. I'm sure Axe must.
Yeah, I think there's some shenanigans. I do remember thinking they don't look that alike, but the ref was baffled by everything going on.
Awesome, cool. Well, we'll relive some childhood in a couple of weeks' time. Then.
Yep, cool.
Thank you for picking an absolute shit Starrcade. At least it's. I think that's the only Starrcade I've ever watched. Actually,
it's not really going to encourage you to go back and watch a whole lot more, is it?
Well, do you know what's funny? I was thinking about WCW and like late 80s, early 90s WCW was talked about as like really good in-ring product.
Yep.
And WCW kind of seemed to sell itself as a professional wrestling company, whereas and not sports entertainment. But at some point, WCW was more sports entertainment than WWF, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah.
Because this stuff, like with the exception of maybe Benoit and Saturn and Malenko and Guerrero, there's no wrestling really. It's just all shit.
It used to always be said, like from the early days, that WCW would have this great undercard and like good technical matches on it, but WWF would have this headline event that people wanted to pay for and see.
Yes.
But yeah, I think that was in the earlier days than this. But Bischoff's probably seen a model that was selling and thought, I'm going to just steal some of it, just, copy it. Didn't work out.
And they were on
well
top. They were on top here and said it was their biggest selling pay-per-view. This one,
a good couple of years, pretty dominant. But yeah,
think how bad WWF must have been.
Yeah.
The thing is, 1997 pay-per-views for WWF are class.
Yeah, I think they are. I think that's maybe one of my favourite years. Although we both thought 1998 was really good, didn't we? And then
definitely had the emergence. Although WrestleMania 13's 97 is a stinker, with the exception of Bret Austin.
Yeah.
And the Sultan versus The Rock, obviously.
Of course. Yeah.
Do you remember watching that? Rocky Johnson comes out and attacks the Sultan.
I do. Yeah, and his old tag partner's sitting in the front row but doesn't actually do anything. Tony Atlas, he's just sitting there, doesn't get involved at all.
That's quite odd. Right. Okay, well, we shall speak in 2 weeks when we do some Rick Rude Appreciation Society.
Awesome.
Until then, get those hips oiled. We will gyrate in 2 weeks. Take it easy.
Cheers.